My situation right now where I'm at is I deal with it at length every day. And a lot of it has to do with just where this anxiety breakdown that I had has led me to, along with the pandemic and whatever other things that life throws at us. But also being cognizant enough to know that it's not something that is completely permanent 24/7, that the medication does help, that therapy does help,
Yep.
that education helps.
Massive.
Understanding it is a big thing. Like, I
I
think
agree.
that
Yeah.
was that
Once
was a
you
big problem.
understand, yeah, and you're so well versed on it. And I'm quite the nerd. So when you're talking about, oh yeah, the way that my serotonin and how it's firing or how it's not, and it's very helpful when you can see, oh, there's a process that's going on internally within my body, just like anything normal, like breathing or digestion, that this needs some addressing. And I think it is definitely very helpful as we're starting to get more information, and there is more research starting to happen now, which is beautiful and hopefully continue. And I'm grateful
Right.
for conversations for hopefully helping continue to keep that interest going towards those studies, towards finding more information.
I also think that the idea of public acceptance of what this truly is huge. And once it's perceived as a physiological disorder and something that is a real issue, a real illness,
Yeah.
um, it's I think we'll be able to forge ahead with more research and development and get more answers. And the public discourse and dialogue is hugely important. I think that the more we do stuff like this, like I would like to do this with you to check in like once a month or once every couple of weeks or something
Oh yeah.
like that.
Yeah. And just to have somebody who is sharing in the experience. And what I love is we, you and I have different lives, different experiences. We don't live too far away, which is kind of cool, but who cares? It's pandemic, not seeing anybody anyway.
Yeah, right.
I know, right? It feels
Right.
like a world apart. But what's so incredible is that there's a shared connection of experience, and
Right.
that we can both help each other simply by not even needing to help, by simply just conversing, by having the conversation, from knowing that kind of what NAMI is doing right now. And like, we're not alone. There's so
I was just
many
going to
of us.
say that.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not alone in this fight, in this battle that we both face, that rears its crazy, ugly head sometimes differently for you or for me. But we're in this together. And it's just such a peaceful and helpful kind of moment of inspiration to know that there's a lot of us, you know?
I think that's therapeutic in and of itself.
Yeah.
To realizing that you aren't alone is huge. Like
Yeah.
truly realizing that you're not alone in this is a huge, huge thing. It was for me, and it continues to be for me. Because if I were to sit there and say that I don't have bouts of loneliness regarding this, I would be lying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I realized, like, okay, come back a second, take a step back. You're not alone in this. You're not the only one that goes through this. And yeah, you may go through it in your own way, but there's other people who are having shared experiences like this. And that there is help, whether it might not be taking care of the illness as quickly as maybe I would like, but I'm an impatient person. So
Ditto. I'm like, I want it done yesterday. Like, why is it not fixed now? You
yeah,
know?
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, on that note though, and on a kind of an uplifting note as well, granted, I think all of this is uplifting because it's honest and it's human and it's real. Uh,
Yeah.
but what are the things that are really kind of bringing you joy and bringing you that kind of exhale right now, getting through pandemic, getting through this 2020 crazy year?
The fact that my family is safe and healthy, and the fact that I've never had this amount of time to spend with my family ever. So
Think about that.
that's the silver lining. I
Yeah.
mean, it's always been you're on the road or you're in the studio or you're off writing somewhere traveling, and this has been that's the blessing of this whole thing for me is that, and luckily they haven't thrown me out of the house yet, or I
They're like,
haven't.
we're not used to him being around. What is this vibe? Like, what?
Yeah, they haven't disowned me yet, and but that's been the thing, and the fact that we're safe and healthy, that we all have each other, that gives me great comfort. I'm very lucky like that, and I'm very cognizant of that. And so I think that is the biggest factor that has helped me get through this. Like everyone's got worries about financial and whatnot. Everybody does. I get that. I do too. But I also know that at the very root of everything is your family and that support system that comes with that, and that we have each other, and that we've managed to stay healthy throughout this whole thing. So to me, that's what gets me through. That's kind of I deal with my anxiety on a kind of like a daily basis, and some days are great and some days are really hard, I can't lie.
Yeah.
But I do know that I'll get through it.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like whether it was a great day the day before or an absolutely crap one, we're both still here.
Yeah.
We both made it through all of it. And at this point, it's kind of like, well, damn, I've come this far.
Right.
And I've been through it. I got a lot more to do, a lot more to create, a lot more to connect to. And I think what keeps me going at this point is knowing the amount of work and even more quiet work that I've gotten to do within myself. Being in New York City, I grew up in Los Angeles. My parents are out there. A lot of my friends are out there. I moved to the city for my job. And then about 6 months after moving, it all shut down for pandemic. And so it
Wow.
was, living and at the time I switched apartments and got a little bit more space, which was helpful. But at the time I was in a studio apartment, it was me, the dog I recently got, thank God for my puppy, which helped so much, and having
Sure.
someone to take care of. But we were in 500 square feet for about 4 months, and just
Wow.
in the middle of pandemic in Manhattan.
Oh,
So no, I mean, it was brutal. You don't go outside. There's cops everywhere that are like, where are you going? What are you doing? It was
yeah.
scary. It was really scary. And it was not an easy place for my anxiety to be, because at that point I wasn't working either. We had a bit of a stop in recording. So it was this moment of like, I have to go internal and deal with what's going on. And it was extremely challenging, and a lot of weird sleep habits and a lot of odd, frustrating, challenging moments. But in learning to pause and learning to have that space within myself, it definitely just put into perspective what matters, what doesn't, and what I'm so excited to create moving forward, and to do it in a much more conscious way. I think it's just helped me wake up about, it's not the rat race of this, that, or the other thing. It's really about kind of the impact and having these conversations and pivoting into what matters and what doesn't. And so what's beautiful about it seems like family's great for me too. I FaceTime all the time. It's blurry and crazy and loud and fun, but really it just goes back to getting to know myself even more, to a point where I'm good with not being okay all the time.
I
Not
commend you for that.
Thank
That's really not an easy path. Um,
thank you.
and being that far away from your family is really, really tough. That's one of the things has always been a bit difficult about touring and things like that, is being on the road for so long, and then you come home and you're really out of sorts.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like you were at one pace probably, and they were operating at another pace, and you gotta have to. It's like trying to find each other's rhythm again, probably.
exactly.
Yeah,
And you're kind of what's interesting about the pandemic is, whereas before, you're home for 3 weeks a month or something like that, but you know that you've got a plan. You're going out on a road, or you're going to go into the
gotta do
studio.
this and do this and do. Yeah, and it's very controlled, and that's kind of how I felt like my life was before too. I was building so many different things, both career wise and personally. And I was like, oh, I'm in control of this. And then whack, pandemic happened. And all of that sense of control went out the window. Everything became the unknown. And all that was left was, okay, I'm here. I'm me. How do I deal with this? What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to deal with you, right?
Yep.
That's scary.
It's really, yeah. Here we go back to where we were about, oh crap, I gotta handle myself. I can't worry about everybody else.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah. And it's like I said, it's every day. It's a daily thing. But you know what? If like you're in a health and wellness industry, and so that's every day.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, this is just one more thing to add to your day, I guess, right?
Exactly. You're like, all right, well, why not? It's me and the dog in my apartment. So I guess we can make some room for it.
Where do you find the energy?
I've actually been struggling with that the last probably 2 months. There's a level of heaviness right now. I think even more so coming into the fall and into the winter. We're still dealing with this. There's been a lot of divisiveness and unrest just in general.
Right.
And it's just a lot of weight. The energy truly comes from, I'm a very external person, right? I love being around people. I love finding out their stories. And I'm that person that'll go to a restaurant and make friends with all the waiters. Like, I just love it. I love people. So with pandemic shutting down and not having that access, and then there's a lot of paranoia between space and whatnot, it's been really hard to find that source of energy again. So what a lot of it comes down to, like, I've been relying a lot on podcasts. I've been relying a lot on other forms of content that go a little bit deeper. Anything that I can find that feels more authentic. Really fascinating documentaries is helpful, but even it goes back to, and I'm grateful for it, some of the people that are part of the community that I get to be a part of with when I'm teaching and cycling, a lot of their stories are really helpful. And this is where social media can be extremely, there's moments where it's awful and there's some negative things and it can throw you so quickly, especially with a depressive and anxious mind. You hold on to it. But at the same time, there's much more, like many DMs and conversations with people who they're sharing their story or how they're overcoming cancer or how they lost their grandfather and this particular song in the ride or this particular moment just hit home to them and it provided them some peace. And knowing that even if I'm not physically able to be in the same room with them and able to have that face-to-face communication, knowing that we're communicating in another level and another plane and that it still has impact has helped me so much. And It's funny, like the community that I'm very grateful and to receive feedback that I'm helping, I don't think they really understand how much they have literally gotten me through this.
Wow.
Like I've been okay because of them. And it goes to show, like, conversations like this, communication, even if it has to be at a distance, even if it has to be virtually, we have to connect. Like, it is our job as human beings to connect to each other. And that's what gets through it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've found that one of the things that pushed me further into a hole was isolationism. And that was just because of fear of exposing myself. And so I would isolate as much as possible. And I still find myself, old habits die hard. Yeah. So I find myself doing that. I've done that at certain junctures throughout the history of this thing for me, where I would disappear for a week and people would be like, where is he?
You just needed to get away. But at the same time, it's really the standing there and facing it. But I get that. I know you and I've chatted before and talked about why it's easy to go back to some of those more fearful habits because we know what to expect.
Yeah.
Because we feel that moment of control. And it is, I feel you. When I kind of turtle or armadillo is kind of what I call it.
Right.
When I'm really in a spot and everything is overwhelming to me and I need to get out. And it just is like, and I just completely shut in.
Right.
But the irony is that's my instinct. That is my habit. That is my protective mechanism, but it's not the thing that actually gets me out of it. It puts me further into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's exactly right. And that's the thing that I had sit there and sort of figure out, like, as much as you want to crawl into this hole because you find it to be painfully safe,
Mhm.
um, it's not the right direction to go, and you got to turn around and go the other way.
Exactly. Exactly.
We just got a 2-minute warning.
I know. I love it. We're getting cut off. We're having such a good chat. I love it. Oh, that's too awesome. Well, totally. I want to respect your time. I am so appreciative of you taking the time of being so open and honest and authentic. And just know this conversation is so healing to me and so helpful to me. And I deeply appreciate it.
Oh,
And
me too. I feel the same way with you. Thank you. And like I said, I was being serious. This stuff is important to me. So if there's any way that we could do this, on a regular basis, it would be my pleasure.
I would love that. I think there's nothing better than not only knowing you're not alone, but also that there's just a community and somebody else who gets it. It just is nice to be, it's just nice to be seen. And I think that's what we all want, that connection, and that's what heals. So I'm down always, always, always.
I'm in. Count
Awesome.
me in.
Sounds so great. Well, thank you so much, Snake. This was epic. My little metal rock and roll heart is also pumped about this too on another level. So thank you. And
Oh man,
I
my
can't wait to
pleasure. I'm very thankful that you had me on. You're so open to discussing all this with me, and I very much value the conversation and the time that you put into this. So thank you so very much. I'm humbled by it.
Oh, thank you. Such good vibes. I love it. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day.